The desert sun hammered down on Phoenix like God's own anvil, turning asphalt to tar and steel to fire. Out on Route
Ready?
60, where the
Left.
city bled
Got
into
it.
scrubland
To the
and the
boss.
American
Be stable.
dream got
Keep
a little
moving.
dustier.
Almost there.
Around the edges, a man sat astride
Got you,
1,500
Mom.
pounds of
We're
chrome
home.
and steel,
Thank you,
watching
son.
the
It
heat
feels
shimmer
so
rise
good.
off the
Let's get
blacktop
you
like
settled.
prayers nobody was listening
What?
to.
Say
Sonny
that again.
Callahan,
It's Dad.
58
Cops are
years
here.
old,
I'm on my
25
way.
years wearing the
Don't
Hells
move.
Angels patch. They called him Ironside, and there was a story behind that name, a story involving a tank truck, a guardrail, and the kind of luck that makes you wonder if somebody upstairs is saving you for something specific. He sat in the clubhouse parking lot, teaching a prospect the difference between maintenance and worship. Because that's what it was, really. The way you cared for your machine told the world everything about who you were inside. See that? Sonny's voice was gravel and whiskey, the kind of voice that didn't need to rise to be heard. Carbon buildup on the cylinder head means you're running too rich, means you're not paying attention. The prospect, a kid named Danny with more tattoos than sense, nodded like his life depended on it. Maybe it did. In this world, the small things mattered. The details separated men from corpses. Engines like trust. Sonny continued, running a calloused finger along the rim. You abuse it. It'll fail you when you need it most. You respect it. Maintain it. Listen to what it's telling you. It'll carry you through hell and back home for breakfast. Danny wiped his hands on a rag that had seen cleaner days. How many times you been through hell, Ironside? Sonny smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes because those eyes had seen things that stayed with a man. Enough to know the return trip's always longer than the journey in. He straightened up his back, protesting the movement. 58 wasn't old, but it wasn't young either, and 3 decades on a motorcycle did things to the spine that yoga couldn't fix. He reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a pocket watch, brass tarnished, beautiful in its wear. The inscription on the back read, "Every mile matters. Mo, Maureen Callahan, his mother. 83 years of Irish steel wrapped in human skin, living alone in a house that was too big and too quiet, refusing every offer he made to move her somewhere safer, somewhere he could keep an eye on her. I changed your diapers, boy, she'd told him last time he asked. I can handle living alone. That was 3 days ago. She'd been watering her roses when he called, and he could hear the spray of the hose in the background, the way she hummed while she worked. Old gospel songs from a childhood she'd never quite left behind. Every mile matters. Sonny checked the time. 2:30. The Saturday club meeting started in 5 minutes, and being president meant being on time, meant setting the example. He slipped the watch back into his pocket and jerked his chin toward the clubhouse door. Clean that carburetor and torque those heads to spec. I check your work at 5. It's wrong you do it again until it's right. Danny nodded. Yes, sir. And Danny? Sonny paused at the door. This life, it looks like it's about bikes and freedom and the open road. But really, it's about accountability. You say you'll do something, you do it. You say you'll be somewhere, you're there. Words mean nothing if your actions don't back them up. Remember that. Inside, the clubhouse smelled like motor oil, cigarettes, and the particular species of brotherhood that only came from men who'd bled together. 12 members sat around the table, veterans, all faces carved by weather, and choices hands that knew both wrenches and weapons. At the head of the table sat Axel Drummond, the VP. 55, built like a fire hydrant with mechanical genius in his fingers and loyalty in his bones. He'd been Sonny's right hand for 15 years, and in all that time, he'd never once questioned a call in public. In private was different. In private, Axel was the voice that asked the questions Sonny needed to hear. Prez. Axel nodded as Sonny took his seat. Brothers. Sonny's gaze swept the room. We got business. Veterans charity ride is 3 weeks out. Hospitals confirmed the route. We're expecting 70 bikes, maybe more if the weather holds. They talk logistics, route planning, safety protocols, which brothers would ride lead sweep and provide security at the hospital. It was boring work, the kind of thing that never made it into the movies about outlaw bikers. But it was real work, important work. Sonny's father, Buck Callahan, had never understood that. For Buck, the club was about territory and dominance, and making sure everyone knew that the patch on his back meant he could do whatever he wanted. For Sonny, the patch meant something different. It meant you were part of something bigger than yourself. It meant you protected people who couldn't protect themselves. It meant that when the world looked at you and saw an outlaw, you proved them wrong by showing up every time for the people who needed you. The meeting droned on. Budget reports, maintenance schedules, a dispute between 2 brothers over a loan that needed mediating. Sonny handled it all with the kind of steady patience that came from knowing that leadership was 90% boredom and 10% crisis, and you never knew when the percentages would flip. His phone rang. Sonny frowned. Unknown number. He almost sent it to voicemail. Club policy during meetings was no phones, unless it was an emergency, but something stopped him. A tightness in his chest. A whisper in his gut that sounded like his mother's voice saying, "Pay attention, boy." He held up a hand, silencing the table. Answered the phone. "Callahan. Mr. Callahan, this is Kathleen Murphy, EMT specialist with Phoenix Fire and Rescue." The voice was professional, controlled, but underneath it, Sonny heard urgency. "I'm calling about Maureen Callahan. We have her in our ambulance. She suffered a stroke." The world tilted. Not dramatically, not like in the movies where everything goes silent and time slows down. Just a gentle shift, like the ground deciding it wasn't quite as solid as it used to be. "Where?" Sonny's voice didn't sound like his own. "Where are you?" "We're en route to Desert Springs Medical Center. Your mother was gardening when it happened. Neighbor called 911. Mr. Callahan, I need you to listen carefully. Your mother's condition is critical. With stroke patients, every minute counts. We're doing everything we can, but how long to the hospital?" "Under normal circumstances, 18 minutes. But sir, we have a situation." Sonny was already standing. The room had gone silent. 12 sets of eyes tracked him, reading the shift in his body language, the way predators read prey. "What situation?" "We're stuck on Cedar Hill Boulevard. There's some kind of street racing event. The road's completely blocked. I've asked them to move. We've been here 11 minutes, but they're refusing." Something cold and ancient stirred in Sonny's chest. "How many of them?" 20, maybe 30. Modified cars. They're..." Kathleen paused, and in that pause, Sonny heard her professionalism warring with her anger. "They're treating this like a joke, Mr. Callahan. I told them we have a critical patient." One of them said, in the background, faint but clear, a young voice cut through, "Tell Granny to wait her turn. We're racing here." Laughter. Male voices, young and stupid and sure of their invincibility. The cold thing in Sonny's chest spread through his veins like ice water. He'd felt this before, this particular flavor of rage. It was the same feeling he got when he was 15, watching his father beat a man unconscious in the parking lot of O'Malley's bar. The same feeling when he was 23 and pulled a brother off a woman who couldn't defend herself. The same feeling that made him dangerous, made him exactly like the man he'd spent his whole life trying not to become. "I'm coming." Sonny's voice was flat, dead calm. The brothers around the table recognized that tone. It was the sound of a decision being made, consequences be damned. "Keep my mother stable. I'll handle the road." He ended the call, looked up at 12 faces that knew better than to ask questions. "My mother's in an ambulance. Stroke. Some punks are blocking the road. It won't let her through to the hospital." He paused, let that sink in. "We ride. Now." Axel was the first to stand. Then the others like a wave. No discussion, no debate. In the Brotherhood, when one man's family was threatened, it became every man's family. "What's the play?" Pres Axel's voice was quiet. Sonny headed for the door, grabbing his helmet off the hook. "We're going to ask them nicely to move. And if they don't..." Sonny paused at the door, one hand on the frame. Outside, the Arizona sun was turning the world to copper and gold, and somewhere in that world his mother was dying while children played games in the street. Then we ask in our language. The sound of 20 Harley-Davidson motorcycles starting simultaneously is something felt in the chest before it's heard with the ears. It's thunder and promise and warning all rolled into one mechanical roar. The kind of sound that makes people stop what they're doing and look up because on some primal level, they recognize it as the approach of something that doesn't ask permission. Sonny straddled his bike, a 2003 Road King, with more miles than most men see in a lifetime, and felt the familiar vibration travel through his body. This machine had carried him through 3 divorces, 2 cancer scares among brothers, and 1 memorable run-in with the ATF that ended with lawyers earning their keep. It knew him. He knew it. And right now they were both heading somewhere that might not end well. The formation was automatic. Sonny took point. Axel rode sweep. The others filled in between, staggered like geese in flight, taking up the whole lane because they had the right to and because presence mattered. They rolled out of the parking lot and onto the street, and Phoenix opened up before them like a promise that had been half kept. Strip malls and adobe houses, palm trees that had no business surviving in the desert, billboards, advertising injury lawyers and Jesus in equal measure. Sonny's mind was ice. He thought about his mother, 83 years old, lying in an ambulance while her brain bled. He thought about the roses she'd been watering red as fresh blood, her pride and joy. He thought about the way she used to sing while she cooked old songs in a voice that remembered Ireland, even though she'd never been there. And he thought about his father. Buck Callahan. Dead 47 years now gone when Sonny was 11 years old. A bar fight that went too far, a man who couldn't walk away from disrespect, even when walking away would have saved his life. Don't become your father. That's what Mo always said. You've got his fire, boy, but you don't have to let it burn the same way. The convoy ate up the miles. 4 minutes to Cedar Hill Boulevard. Sonny used his radio to coordinate. Hammer, take the north intersection. Don't let anyone in or out. Copy Prez. Chain south side. Same deal. On it. They were setting up a perimeter before they even arrived. Containing the situation. It was tactical thinking, military precision, the kind of coordination that came from years of riding together, trusting each other with lives and freedom in all the things that mattered. Sonny's phone rang again. Kathleen Murphy. Mr. Callahan, we just lost engine power. The ambulance is dead. I've called for backup, but the nearest available unit is 35 minutes out. Your mother doesn't have 35 minutes. The ice in Sonny's chest cracked. Underneath it, something hot and terrible stirred. I'm 2 minutes away. Keep her alive. I'm trying. But sir, you need to understand her vitals are deteriorating. The window for effective treatment is closing. 2 minutes felt like forever. The bike beneath him wanted to go faster, and Sonny wanted to let it, wanted to open the throttle and damn the consequences and arrive like the wrath of God himself. But speed without control was how people died. He kept it steady, 70 and a 55. Fast enough to matter, slow enough to arrive in one piece. Cedar Hill Boulevard came into view. The scene was exactly what Kathleen had described, and somehow worse. 20, maybe 30 cars, all modified, all loud, scattered across both lanes, like someone had spilled a bucket of Hot Wheels. Music thumped from open doors, bass so heavy, Sonny felt it in his fillings. Young men, boys, really none of them over 25, stood around like they owned the world, phones out, recording everything. In the middle of it all, the ambulance sat silent and helpless, emergency lights still flashing, a monument to hope running out. Sonny's convoy arrived like a thunderstorm. 20 bikes formation, perfect engines, rumbling in a frequency that drowned out the car stereos. They didn't have to announce themselves. The sound did it for them. The street racers turned. Some of them looked nervous. Most looked defiant. And one, a kid with bleached hair and a BMW M5 that probably cost more than Sonny's house, looked like he'd just won the lottery. Yo, chat. The kid was talking to his phone, live streaming everything. We got Hell's Angels here. This is about to be epic. Sonny dismounted, removed his helmet, made eye contact with the kid. Declan Garrett. Sonny knew the name, knew the reputation. TikTok influencer with 280,000 followers, all of them watching him do stupid things at high speed. The kind of kid who thought consequences were for other people. Sonny walked forward. His brothers stayed on their bikes' engines, idling a wall of leather and chrome in the kind of patience that had limits. Son, Sonny's voice carried without shouting. That ambulance has my mother inside. You have 10 seconds to move your vehicle. Declan grinned at the camera. Or what old man you gonna hit me on live stream? That's assault, boomer. I got 15,000 people watching right now. You touch me, you're done. Sonny counted to 5 in his head. Old habit. His father used to count to 3 before he started swinging. Sonny had learned that adding 2 more seconds gave you time to think. Time to remember that some actions couldn't be taken back. I'm asking nicely. Move the car. Let the ambulance through. And I'm saying no. Declan was performing now, playing to his audience. This is a public street. We got just as much right to be here as some ambulance. Maybe Granny should have called earlier. Behind Declan, his friends laughed. Phones everywhere, recording, broadcasting, turning tragedy into content. Sonny felt the old darkness rising, the thing that lived in his chest, that shared DNA with his father, that wanted nothing more than to teach this child what respect looked like when delivered through broken teeth. He took a step forward. The bikes revved. 20 engines synchronized, a warning in mechanical form. A police cruiser pulled up, lights flashing. Officer Bridget McCready stepped out, 47 years old, 22 years on the force, and a particular expression that said she'd seen this movie before and didn't like how it ended. Jake, Declan, everybody just take it down about 5 notches. Her hand rested on her belt, not threatening, just present. What's the situation? Declan turned to her, all innocence. Officer, we're just hanging out and these bikers are threatening us. I got it all on video. Bridget looked at the ambulance, looked at Sonny, looked at Declan. Son, I'm going to give you one chance to make the smart choice. Move your vehicle, now. Am I breaking any laws, officer? Bridget's jaw tightened. You're obstructing traffic. No, I'm legally parked. Check your codes. I'm not in a red zone, not blocking a fire hydrant. Those bikers, though, they're clearly engaging in intimidation. It was true technically. The law had loopholes you could drive a BMW through, and Declan knew every one. Bridget caught Sonny's eye. In that look, he saw everything she couldn't say out loud. That the law was on Declan's side for now. That she was handcuffed by procedure and body cameras and the 17 different ways this could go wrong. From the ambulance, a sound. Not quite a scream, not quite a shout. Kathleen Murphy's voice ragged with desperation. She's coding. I need help now. Time stopped. Sonny looked at the ambulance, at his mother invisible behind metal and glass dying while children played games. He looked at Declan, still grinning at his phone. He looked down at his hands' scarred knuckles, broken fingers, healed wrong hands that had built engines and broken jaws, and held his mother's hand at his father's funeral. 10 seconds. That's all it would take. 10 seconds to cross the distance. 10 seconds to wipe that grin off Declan's face. 10 seconds to become exactly what his mother had begged him never to become. Don't become your father. Mo's voice clear as church bells cutting through the rage. Sonny's hands curled into fists. Uncurled. Curled again. And then Declan made a mistake. He stepped away from his car, moving towards Sonny's phone held high, recording everything. Come on, old man. Do it. Hit me. Make me famous. Behind him, one of his friends, drunk, stupid, 21 years old and bulletproof, grabbed a beer bottle and threw it. The bottle tumbled through the desert air, brown glass catching sunlight, and struck Sonny's bike. Not hard, barely a scratch on paint that had seen worse. But it was enough. The brothers moved, not violently, not yet. But they dismounted, a synchronized movement that spoke of training and discipline and the kind of unity that came from bleeding together. They formed a semicircle, cutting off escape routes, boxing in the street racers. Declan's grin faltered. His friends stopped laughing. Phones still recorded, but the bravado was leaking out of the scene like air from a punctured tire. Last chance, Sonny's voice was desert dry. Move, your cars! Declan looked at his phone. At the viewer count, 18,000 now climbing. At the comments scrolling by, urging him to stand firm, to not back down, to show these boomers who was boss. He looked at Sonny. Really looked for the first time. Saw something in those eyes that made his mouth go dry. I don't... From the ambulance, Kathleen's voice again, but different now. Not desperate. Terrified. She's flatlining. I've lost her pulse. I need... The world went white. Not literally, but something in Sonny's vision narrowed, focused. And suddenly all he could see was Declan's face. And all he could feel was the certain knowledge that if his mother died while this child played games, there would be no law, no consequence, no future worth having that would stop him from wait. Declan's voice cracking. Wait, okay, just I'll move. I'll help. Sonny's fist was halfway to Declan's jaw. He didn't remember raising it, didn't remember closing the distance. But there it was, cocked back, ready to deliver judgment. He froze. Your car. Sonny's voice didn't sound human. Yes, my car. The M5. I can get her to the hospital in 10 minutes. I know these streets. I know shortcuts. I can... Declan was babbling now, words tumbling over each other. I can help. Please, let me help. Why? The question came from Axel, who'd moved up beside Sonny. After all this, why now? Declan's eyes went to the ambulance, to the window where through the glare a shape was visible. Kathleen doing chest compressions on a body too small, too fragile, too old to survive this. Because, Declan's voice broke, because 3 years ago my brother died in an ambulance, motorcycle crash, and I wasn't there. And nobody, he couldn't finish. Sonny lowered his fist. Looked at this kid, really looked, and saw something he recognized. Saw the anger that came from guilt. Saw the bravado that covered pain. Saw himself at 24 lost and angry and pretending he wasn't. Your brother's name? Tommy Garrett. He was 22. Axel put a hand on Sonny's shoulder. Prez, I remember that accident. I-10 rollover. Bad one. Sonny met Declan's eyes. You can get her there in 10 minutes. I swear to God. You screw this up. You understand what happens. I won't. I swear I won't. Kathleen burst from the ambulance's back doors, wild-eyed. We don't have time for negotiations. She's gone. I need to move her now, or what? Get her in his car. Sonny pointed at the BMW. Now. The next 90 seconds were chaos. Kathleen and her partner lifting Mo so small, so fragile, Sonny had forgotten how small his mother had become, onto a backboard. Declan clearing the back seat of his car, throwing out energy drink cans and fast food wrappers. Brothers surrounding the vehicle, creating space, holding back the crowd. Sonny saw his mother's face for the first time, gray as ash, mouth slack, eyes closed. She looked dead. "Ma!" His voice cracked on the word. "Ma, I'm here." No response. Kathleen was doing compressions, counting breathing for her. They loaded her into the BMW's back seat. Kathleen climbed in with her barely enough room, but she made it work. Her partner squeezed into the front passenger seat. Declan looked at Sonny. "I won't let you down." "You better not." Declan slid behind the wheel. The engine roared to life, obscene horsepower, completely inappropriate for the situation, and yet exactly what they needed. "Prez!" Axel's voice in his ear. "You riding with what?" "No." Sonny swung a leg over his Harley. "I'm leading escort. We clear every intersection between here and the hospital. Nobody stops us. Nobody." He keyed his radio. "All brothers. Formation Alpha. We're running code. Stay tight." 20 engines answered with thunder. The convoy pulled out BMW and the center Harley surrounding it, like a protective shell, sirens, wailing engines, screaming traffic scattering before them, like birds before a storm. Sonny rode point, and for those 10 minutes, he rode like he'd never ridden before. Not reckless, he couldn't afford reckless, but fast aggressive, claiming every inch of road like it belonged to him. At every intersection, brothers peeled off block cross traffic, created a corridor. The BMW streaked through Declan, driving with a precision that surprised Sonny. The kid knew his machine, knew the limits, pushed right up to them, but never over. In the back seat, visible through the rear window, Kathleen worked. Compressions, breath, check pulse, compressions, breath. Over and over, fighting death with nothing but training and will. Sonny kept pace beside the car, close enough to see but not close enough to interfere. And as they flew through the Phoenix streets, weaving between traffic running lights that brothers held clear, he prayed. Not to God, he and God hadn't been on speaking terms since his father died, but to something, to the universe, to fate, to whatever force might be listening. "Don't take her. Not like this. Not while I'm watching. Please." Desert Springs Medical Center appeared ahead. Trauma team visible at the emergency entrance, already mobilized by radio. The BMW screeched to a stop. Doors flew open. Kathleen still doing compressions as they transferred Mo to a gurney, as doctors swarmed, as machines beeped, and voices called out numbers that meant nothing to Sonny, but everything to them. 58-year-old female ischemic stroke, approximately 40 minutes since symptom onset, coded twice in transport, currently in VFib. They wheeled her inside. Automatic doors swallowed her. Sonny stood in the parking lot, helmet in hand, watching the doors close. Declan stood beside him, breathing hard. "Is she?" "I don't know." Axel and the brothers arrived, parking their bikes in formation. "Discipline even now, especially now." "Prez," Axel's voice was gentle. "I need a minute. Take all the time you need." But time was the one thing Sonny didn't have. Time was what they just spent burning through it at 90 miles an hour, hoping it would be enough. He walked to the hospital entrance, stopped, looked back at Declan. The kid stood by his BMW phone, forgotten for once, looking lost. "You did good, kid." Declan nodded, unable to speak. "Why'd you really help?" Sonny had to know. "The truth." Declan's eyes filled. "Because when Tommy was dying and I was stuck in traffic and I couldn't get there in time, I kept thinking, if someone had just moved, if someone had just let me through, if someone had cared about something other than themselves for 5 seconds." He wiped his face. "I couldn't be that person. Not again." Sonny walked back, extended his hand. Declan looked at it like it might be a trap, then took it. "Thank you," Sonny said, and meant it. Inside the hospital, a nurse approached. "Mr. Callahan, your mother's in surgery. Dr. Vance is operating. It's going to be several hours. There's a waiting room." "I'll wait here." Sonny gestured to the plastic chairs by the window. "Sir, it could be 5-6 hours. Then I'll be here for 5 or 6 hours." The nurse recognized the tone, nodded, left. Axel sat down beside him. Then the other brothers, filling the waiting room, a wall of leather and loyalty. Declan hesitated at the door. "I should probably—" "Sit down, kid." Sonny didn't look up. "You're part of this now." So Declan sat, and they waited. The sun moved across the sky. Afternoon bled into evening. The waiting room lights came on, fluorescent and harsh. Sonny stared at his hands, these hands that had almost struck a child, these hands that had almost become his father's hands. He pulled out the pocket watch. 2:17 p.m. 3 hours since the call. Every mile matters, but sometimes he thought the hardest miles are the ones you don't take. The punch you don't throw, the rage you don't feed. His mother had taught him that, And now she was on a table somewhere, brain bleeding, fighting for every second while strangers worked to save her. Sonny closed his eyes, and for the first time in 30 years, Sonny Callahan, president of the Hells Angels, called Ironside by his brothers, feared by his enemies, prayed, not to God, but to his mother. Hold on, Ma, please, just hold on. The waiting room clock ticked. Outside, the desert sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and red and gold. And inside, in the fluorescent light, surrounded by brothers and a street racer who'd found redemption in a back seat, Sonny waited for news that would either save his world or end it. The doors remained closed. The wait continued. And part one of this story ended not with answers, but with the terrible uncertainty of hope suspended hanging in the balance, waiting for the scales to tip. 5 hours. That's how long Sonny sat in that waiting room, watching the clock on the wall tick through seconds that felt like centuries. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, that particular frequency that burrowed into your skull and made time feel even slower than it already was. Around him, brothers came and went. Axel stayed the whole time, solid as a cornerstone, saying nothing because nothing needed saying. That was the thing about real friendship. It knew when silence was the greatest gift you could give. Declan stayed too. The kid had slumped in his chair around our 3 phone battery dead followers, forgotten just a 24-year-old who'd stumbled into something bigger than his live stream could contain. At 7:43 p.m., the surgery doors opened. Dr. Eleanor Vance emerged, still in her scrubs, surgical cap pulled off to reveal gray hair pulled back in a practical bun. She was 50-something with the kind of face that had delivered both miracles and tragedies, and had learned not to show either until she was certain which one she was carrying. Sonny stood. Axel stood with him. The whole room stood, actually 12 leather-clad men rising like a congregation at church. Mr. Callahan, Dr. Vance's voice was professionally neutral. Your mother's surgery was successful. We removed the clot. She's stable. The relief hit like a physical blow. Sonny's knees actually buckled slightly, and Axel's hand on his shoulder was the only thing that kept him upright. Can I see her? In a few hours. She's in recovery now. But Mr. Callahan, there's something else we need to discuss. Somewhere private. The relief curdled into dread. They walked to a consultation room, sterile, windowless, designed for conversations nobody wanted to have. Dr. Vance gestured to chairs. Sonny remained standing. Just tell me. Dr. Vance opened a tablet, pulled up charts that looked like abstract art rendered in medical terminology. When we ran your mother's pre-surgical blood work, we found markers. Elevated CA19, 9 abnormal liver functions, several other indicators that prompted us to run additional tests. English doc? Your mother has pancreatic cancer, stage 4, metastatic. It spread to her liver and possibly her lungs. The room tilted. Not dramatically, just enough that Sonny had to put a hand on the back of a chair to steady himself. How long has she known? Dr. Vance looked at her tablet. Based on the progression of the disease, I'd estimate she's known for at least 9 months, possibly longer. 9 months. Mo had known for 9 months and hadn't said a word, hadn't complained, hadn't asked for help, just kept watering her roses and calling him every Sunday morning and pretending everything was fine. Treatment options. Mr. Callahan, at this stage with her age and the stroke, treatment would buy her time, but not much. Chemotherapy would be brutal on her system. 3 months, maybe 6 if she responds well. Without treatment, we're looking at weeks. Weeks. I'm sorry. Sonny stared at the floor. Institutional tile gray with flecks of white scuffed by 1,000 feet, bringing 1,000 varieties of grief to this room. There's one more thing. Dr. Vance pulled an envelope from her pocket. The nurse found this in your mother's personal effects. It's addressed to you. She left specific instructions that if anything happened to her, this was to be given to you immediately. The envelope was standard white Mo's handwriting on the front in blue ink that had started to fade. Just his name, Sonny. He took it with hands that had stopped shaking sometime during the last 5 hours and started again now. I'll give you privacy. Dr. Vance moved toward the door. Your mother should be awake in another hour or so. The nurse will come get you. Then she was gone, and Sonny was alone with an envelope that weighed nothing and everything. He sat down, stared at it, turned it over in his hands. The seal was old-fashioned, the kind you licked, and he could see where Mo's tongue had moistened the glue. Such an intimate thing, such a mundane detail, and it nearly broke him right there. He opened it. Inside, 2 pieces of paper. The first was Mo's handwriting, that careful script she'd learned in Catholic school 70 years ago. The letter read, My wild boy, if you're reading this, you know. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. Not because I was afraid you know your old ma better than that, but because I know you, Sonny Callahan. You would have stopped living your life to try to save mine. You would have hovered and worried and driven me crazy with all your big plans to fix the unfixable. I've had 83 years, good years, hard years, years with your father that nearly broke me and years without him that taught me I was stronger than I thought. I raised you. I saw you become a man, not the man I expected maybe, but a man with honor. That's all a mother can ask. The cancer doesn't scare me. I made my peace with God a long time ago, and I figure he owes me some answers anyway. What scares me is you wasting the time you have left being angry like your daddy was. I need you to know something about Buck. Something I should have told you years ago but couldn't find the courage. Your father wasn't just mean, Sonny. He was sick. In 1978, when things were getting really bad, I dragged him to a doctor. He went once, only once, because Buck Callahan didn't do doctors. They did brain scans, found damage. Lots of it. From all those boxing matches before he joined the club, they said he'd had over 200 fights, and every one of them left a mark. The doctor used words like chronic traumatic encephalopathy and irreversible cognitive decline. Said Buck's brain looked like a war zone. Said the violence, the mood swings, the blackouts, none of it was really him choosing. It was the damage choosing for him. I didn't want to believe it. Easier to think he was just mean. If he was just mean, then I could leave. But if he was sick, how do you leave a sick man? He died in that bar fight because his brain couldn't tell him to stop, and I enabled it, Sonny. I made excuses. I told everyone he was just passionate, just protective, just old-fashioned. I let it happen. Baby, you've had over 40 motorcycle crashes in 30 years. I counted. I kept track of every hospital visit, every concussion, every time you said you were fine, but I could see you weren't. You get headaches you think I don't know about. You have gaps in your memory. Last month, you told me the same story 3 times in one conversation. You're showing the same signs he did. Please, Sonny, get tested. Don't become him because you don't know you're sick. Don't waste the years you have left thinking you're fighting your nature when you might be fighting your neurology. I'm not asking you to quit the club. I'm asking you to take care of yourself, to be honest about what's happening in your head, to choose a different ending than your father got. I love you. Always have. Always will. Even when I'm gone. Stop running, boy. Face what's chasing you. Your ma P.S. There's money. Not much, but enough. In an account at Desert Federal. Use it for the testing. Use it for whatever comes next. Don't be stubborn about this. For once in your life, accept help. The second piece of paper was a bank statement. An account Sonny had never known existed. $43,000 accumulated over decades, squirreled away from Mo's nursing salary and Social Security. Money she could have spent on herself, on treatment, on comfort in her final months. Instead, she'd saved it for him. Sonny read the letter again, then a third time. The words didn't change, but their meaning deepened with each pass. CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. He'd heard about it on the news, football players losing their minds, boxing legends who couldn't remember their own children. He'd never connected it to himself, but now that Mo had named it, he couldn't unsee it. The headaches that came every few weeks, blinding pain behind his eyes that he blamed on stress. The times he'd walked into a room and forgotten why. The dreams that felt like memories and the memories that felt like dreams. The rage that came on fast and hot, the kind that made him dangerous. The kind that felt like being possessed by someone else. Just like Buck. The consultation room door opened. Axel stood there reading Sonny's face the way he'd learned to read engines, looking for the signs of something breaking down. Prez Sonny handed him the letter without a word. Axel read it. His face, normally impassive, went through a journey. Surprise, understanding. Something that might have been grief. How long you known? Axel asked quietly. About the headaches, the blackouts. You knew. Brother, I've ridden with you for 15 years. I've seen you forget conversations, seen you lose time. Figured it was stress. Figured it was age catching up. Axel folded the letter carefully, handed it back. Never thought it might be this. What do I do? It was the first time Sonny had asked that question in a decade. Presidents didn't ask what to do. They decided. They led. They bore the weight of choice alone. But Axel didn't flinch. You do what your ma said. You get tested. You find out what you're dealing with. Then you decide. And if it's bad, then it's bad. But at least you'll know. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Mr. Callahan, your mother's awake. She's asking for you. Mo looked small in the hospital bed. The machines surrounding her, monitors and IVs, and things that beeped with reassuring regularity, made her seem even smaller, like she was being absorbed by technology, becoming less real with each passing moment. But her eyes were open, clear, and when Sonny walked in, she smiled. "Hey, Ma, my boy." Her voice was rough, scratchy, from the breathing tube they'd removed an hour ago. "You read it." Sonny pulled a chair close to the bed, sat down and took her hand. It felt like paper and bone, so fragile he was afraid to squeeze too hard. "Yeah, I read it." "Mad at me." "Terrified, heartbroken, but not mad. Never mad at you, Ma." Mo's smile widened slightly. "Good, because we don't have time for you to be stubborn." "How long have you known about the cancer?" "Year and half, maybe more. Lost track." 18 months. She'd known for 18 months and kept it to herself. Kept watering her roses and calling him every Sunday and living like tomorrow was guaranteed. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have stopped living to watch me die. And I didn't want my last months to be a death watch." She coughed a wet sound that made Sonny reach for the water cup. She sipped through a straw. "Wanted normal, for as long as I could have it." "There's nothing normal about hiding cancer, Ma." "Maybe not, but it was my choice, my body, my death." She fixed him with those clear eyes, the same eyes that had stared down drunks and doctors and his father in full rage. "Now you gotta make choices about your body, your life. I'll get tested, I promise. And I don't know yet, Ma. I don't know what comes after." Mo nodded slowly. "That's okay. Not knowing is honest. Just don't run from it." They sat in silence for a while. Outside the window, Phoenix was turning on its lights, the city becoming a constellation of human hope against the desert dark. "Maureen," a voice from the doorway. Dr. Vance, again this time with another doctor, younger male, carrying a tablet. "This is Dr. Marcus Webb, our neurologist. I took the liberty of asking him to consult, given what your letter mentioned." Sonny looked at his mother. Mo nodded permission. Dr. Webb was 40 maybe, with the kind of earnest competence that came from actually caring about his work. "Mr. Callahan, your mother filled me in on your history. The accidents, the fights, the symptoms. I'd like to run some tests." "What kind of tests?" "Cognitive assessments first. Then if you're willing, a CT scan and possibly an MRI. We're looking for signs of traumatic brain injury, structural changes consistent with CTE." Dr. Webb pulled up images on his tablet. "This is a healthy brain. This is a brain with mild CTE. This is severe." The progression was stark, from gray matter that looked orderly to tissue that looked like it had been through a war. "How long until we know?" "We could do the initial screening tonight, imaging tomorrow. Full results within 48 hours. Sonny looked at Mo. She squeezed his hand with what little strength she had. "Do it," Sonny said. The cognitive test happened in a different room, just Sonny and Dr. Webb, in a series of questions that should have been easy, but weren't. Count backward from 100 by sevens. Sonny made it to 72 before he lost track. "Remember these three words, apple, table, penny? I'll ask you to repeat them in 5 minutes." 5 minutes later, Sonny remembered apple and penny, but not table. Or had it been chair, draw a clock showing 3:15. Sonny's clock had the numbers in roughly the right places, but the hands were wrong. He knew they were wrong, could see it even as he drew them, but couldn't make his hand cooperate with what his brain wanted. 40 minutes of tests. 40 minutes of failing at things that should have been automatic. When it was over, Dr. Webb's face was carefully neutral. "We'll do the imaging tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't eat or drink anything after midnight." "How bad is it?" "Let's wait for the full results before we jump to conclusions." Which was doctor speak for, "It's bad, but I can't say that yet." Sonny walked back to Mo's room. She was asleep, breathing, steady machines keeping watch. He sat in the chair beside her bed and pulled out his phone. Scrolled through contacts until he found the one he needed. Axel answered on the first ring. "Prez, call a meeting. Full patch. Tomorrow night. My place." "What's going on?" "I'll explain tomorrow. Just make sure everyone's there." "Done." Sonny hung up, stared at his mother sleeping. Memorized the rise and fall of her chest, the way her hair spread across the pillow, the peaceful expression that came with medication and exhaustion. He thought about his father, about Buck Callahan, who died in a jail cell at 43 years old, brain so scrambled he probably didn't understand where he was or why he was there. He thought about himself at 58, already showing signs, already losing pieces of himself to damage he'd accumulated like other men accumulated scars. And he thought about choice, about whether free will meant anything when your brain was betraying you from the inside. The night passed in fitful sleep, Sonny dozing in the chair, waking every time a nurse came to check vitals, drifting off again into dreams that felt like warnings. Morning came gray and tired through the hospital windows. Mo woke around 7. You stayed. Where else would I be? With your brothers, your club, your life. You are my life, Ma. She smiled at that. Liar, but a sweet one. They brought breakfast. Nothing for Mo, just ice chips because of the surgery, but Sonny got coffee that tasted like regret and a Danish he couldn't stomach. At 9:30, an orderly came to take him for imaging. Axel had arrived by then, sitting in the corner, solid and silent. Go, Mo told Sonny. Find out what you're dealing with. The MRI machine was a coffin that hummed. They slid him inside and told him not to move, which was harder than it sounded when every instinct screamed to get out to run to escape this mechanical tomb. 45 minutes. That's how long he lay there while magnetic fields mapped the architecture of his deterioration. When they pulled him out, he asked, "Can you tell just from looking?" The technician's face said yes. His mouth said, "Dr. Webb will review the results and discuss them with you." More waiting, more coffee, more sitting in that room with Mo sleeping and Axel reading a motorcycle magazine that was 3 years old. At 2 p.m., Dr. Webb returned with a manila folder that held Sonny's future. "Mr. Callahan, let's talk." They went back to the consultation room. This time, Sonny brought Axel. If he was going to get bad news, he wanted his brother to hear it too. Dr. Webb pulled up scans on a computer screen. Black and white images that looked like modern art, but were actually Sonny's brain betraying him in high definition. "These are your results." Dr. Webb pointed to areas that looked darker than they should. "What we're seeing here is consistent with chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Stage 2, progressing towards stage 3. In English, your brain has sustained significant repetitive trauma over decades. The damage is cumulative and unfortunately irreversible. The tau protein buildup is causing inflammation and cell death in regions that control impulse regulation, memory formation, and emotional processing." Sonny stared at the screen. "That's my brain." "Yes. And there's no fixing it." "No, but Mr. Callahan, and this is important, we caught this relatively early. You're 58. With lifestyle modifications, we can slow the progression significantly." "What kind of modifications?" "No more head trauma. None. That means no more fights, no more motorcycle accidents. Honestly, it means reconsidering whether riding at all is wise." Dr. Webb's voice was gentle but firm. "Every time you sustain another concussion, you're accelerating the timeline. Right now, with aggressive management, you might have 20 good years left. If you continue your current lifestyle, you're looking at 5 years before symptoms become severe enough to significantly impact your quality of life. Symptoms like memory loss beyond what you're experiencing now, difficulty controlling anger, depression, paranoia, eventually full dementia. What happened to your father?" There it was, the monster named, the ghost made flesh. Axel spoke up for the first time. "What's aggressive management look like?" "Avoid all contact sports and high-risk activities. Physical therapy to maintain neural pathways. Possible medication to manage symptoms. Regular monitoring. And honestly, Mr. Callahan, reducing stress, which given your position might be the hardest part." Sonny laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You're telling me I need to retire. I'm telling you that every choice you make from here on out either extends your functional life or shortens it. What you do with that information is up to you." They sat in silence, the weight of impossible decisions pressing down like atmosphere. Finally, Sonny asked, "If I keep doing what I'm doing, how long until I'm like my father?" Dr. Webb hesitated. "Based on the progression I'm seeing in your history, 5 years, maybe less. And if I stop, if I walk away from everything, then you might see grandchildren graduate college. You might have a decade or two of cognition clear enough to know who you are and where you've been. You might get to decide how your story ends instead of having the disease decide for you." Sonny stood and walked to the window. Outside, the parking lot shimmered in heat. Motorcycles lined up in formation, his brothers waiting loyal as dogs, ready to ride wherever he led them. "Can I have some time to think about this?" "Of course, but Mr. Callahan, don't take too long. Every day you delay is a day you can't get back." That night, Sonny's house filled with brothers. 14 of them, patch holders, all sitting in his living room, drinking his beer and waiting for the news that had called this meeting. Sonny stood in front of them, feeling every one of his 58 years. "I'm sick," he said. No preamble, no softening it. "Got the same thing that killed my old man. CTE, brain damage from all the crashes and fights. It's not going to get better. Only going to get worse, was silence. The kind that held weight. Doc says I got a choice. Keep riding hard, keep living like I have been. I got maybe 5 years before my brain turns to soup. Or I make changes. Big ones. And maybe get 20. What kind of changes? That was Hammer the Sergeant at Arms, a man who'd literally taken a bullet for Sonny in 2008. No more fighting, no more high-risk riding, no more being the guy who leads the charge. Sonny met each of their eyes. Means stepping down as president. The silence changed texture, became shock. Prez, you can't, Hammer started. I can. I have to. Sonny's voice was steady. I spent my whole life trying not to be my father, trying to prove I was better, smarter, more in control. But I'm becoming him anyway. The violence, the blackouts. It's not choice, brothers. It's damage. And if I don't stop now, I'm going to hurt someone I love. Might be one of you, might be someone innocent, but it'll happen. Axel stood. Then I'm stepping up as president, if you'll have me. A vote, quick, unanimous. Axel became president with a show of hands that took 30 seconds. But you stay in the club, Axel said. Retired elder. We need your wisdom even if we can't use your fists, Sonny nodded. One more thing. My ma's dying. Cancer. She's got weeks, maybe a month. I'm bringing her home. Setting up hospice. I'm gonna need help. You got it. This from all of them, a chorus of brotherhood that reminded Sonny why he'd given 30 years of his life to these men. Later, after they'd left, after the house was quiet again, Sonny sat on his back porch and called Declan. The kid answered immediately. Mr. Callahan, is your mom okay? She's alive, for now. Listen, kid, you still sober? 72 hours. You looking for work? Pause. What kind of work? Legitimate kind. I'm opening a custom motorcycle shop. Need someone who knows engines and isn't afraid of hard work. Pays $15 an hour to start. More if you prove yourself. Yes. When do I start? Monday. And Declan, you show up drunk or high, you're done. No second chances. I won't let you down, Mr. Callahan. We'll see. Sonny hung up, stared at the desert sky stars coming out like holes poked in black fabric showing light behind the darkness. His phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. Mo was asking for him. He drove back through Phoenix, taking surface streets instead of the highway, going slow, memorizing the route because sooner than he wanted, these drives would be numbered. Mo was awake when he arrived, propped up on pillows, looking more alert than she had any right to. You told them, she asked. Yeah. And Axel's president now. I'm stepping back. Mo's eyes filled. I'm proud of you. Don't be. I'm terrified. That's why I'm proud. Only brave men admit they're scared. Sonny sat beside her bed, took her hand. Ma, I want to bring you home. Set up hospice, let you see your roses again. I'd like that. How much time you think we got? Doc says weeks, but your ma's stubborn. Might squeeze out a month just to prove him wrong. She squeezed his hand. Tell me about your father. The good parts, before the damage. And so Sonny did. Told stories he'd buried for 40 years. About Buck teaching him to ride. About Buck's laugh, which was rare but genuine. About the man his father had been before boxing and bar fights had turned his brain into a battlefield. Mo listened, smiled, cried a little. He loved you, she said, even when he couldn't show it right, even when the disease made him cruel. Underneath it all, he loved you so much it scared him. I know, Ma. I know that now. They sat together as night deepened, as nurses made their rounds, as machines beeped their reassurance that life continued for now, for this moment. And Sonny thought about the choice he'd made, about stepping down, about facing the thing he'd run from his whole life. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like surrender. But maybe he thought maybe surrender was just another word for wisdom. Maybe knowing when to stop fighting was the bravest thing a warrior could do. Outside, Phoenix slept. Inside, a mother and son held hands across the gap between life and death, between past and future, between the man Sonny had been and the man he might still become. If he had time, if he chose wisely, if grace existed in a universe that seemed determined to break everyone it touched. The night passed, morning would come, and with it, whatever days remained. 3 days later, Sonny brought his mother home, not to some sterile hospice facility with beige walls and the smell of industrial cleaners trying to mask death. Home, to the house where she'd raised him alone after Buck died, to the bedroom where she'd cried herself to sleep for a year before deciding tears were a luxury she couldn't afford, to the window overlooking the rose garden she'd tended for 46 years. The brothers made it happen. They always did. Axel coordinated the medical equipment rental hospital bed, oxygen concentrator medication organizer that looked like it belonged in a pharmacy. Hammer installed grab bars in the bathroom, the kind that could support real weight if Mo fell. 3 prospects arrived at dawn with cleaning supplies and spent 8 hours scrubbing every surface until the house gleamed. Declan showed up at 7 a.m., stone cold sober, carrying coffee and a bag of donuts he wouldn't eat himself. The kid didn't ask what needed doing. He just looked around and found work. Painted Mo's bedroom walls the pale yellow she requested the color of early morning sun. Transplanted a rose bush into a ceramic pot and positioned it where she could see it from the bed. Fixed the kitchen faucet that had been dripping for 3 years, the one Sonny kept meaning to get to. By noon, the house was ready. By 2 p.m., Mo was settled in her bed, propped on pillows, looking out at her garden like a queen returned to her kingdom. "Better than that hospital prison," she announced, her voice stronger than it had been in days. Funny how home could do that, give you strength you didn't know you had, even when your body was betraying you from the inside. "You need anything, Ma, just holler." Mo waved a hand dismissively. "I need you to stop fussing over me like a mother hen. Go. Be useful somewhere. I'm not dead yet, and I'd like to enjoy the peace and quiet before I am." But she would be dead soon. The hospice nurse, a woman named Patricia with kind eyes and steady hands, gave them the timeline privately in the kitchen while Mo napped. 2 weeks if they were lucky, maybe 3 if Mo's stubbornness counted for anything, which it did. "The cancer's aggressive," Patricia explained, her voice low and professional. "Even without the stroke, we'd be having this conversation. What she needs now isn't medicine. It's comfort, love, and when the time comes, permission to let go." Permission, as if anyone had the authority to grant that. As if Sonny could look at the woman who'd raised him and say the words that would release her from this world. The first week settled into a rhythm. Mornings were good. Mo would wake lucid and talkative, wanting updates on Declan's sobriety, asking about the shop Sonny was planning, making him promise to live his life instead of sitting vigil over her death. Afternoons she slept, her breathing labored, the cancer devouring her from within like a slow fire. Evenings brought a second wind, but each evening that wind blew a little weaker than the one before. Sonny slept in the chair beside her bed. Not well, but he slept. The brothers rotated shifts, making sure someone was always present. Axel came after work each day, sitting quietly in the corner reading the Phoenix newspaper aloud, because Mo liked the reminder that the world kept turning without her. Declan brought fresh flowers, cheap grocery store bouquets in mason jars, bright and cheerful, and completely out of place in a room where someone was dying. On day 8, Mo had a lucid spell that lasted most of the afternoon. She asked Sonny to retrieve something from her closet, a wooden box, old and worn smooth, tucked behind winter coats she'd never wear again. "What's in it, Ma?" Though he already knew, had known since childhood, but had never asked, never wanted confirmation. "Your father," Mo said simply. The urn was brass gone green with age, Buck Callahan's name and dates etched on a small plaque. Born 1936, died 1979. The mathematics put him at 43 when he died 15 years younger than Sonny was now. "You kept his ashes all this time. Talked to him every night," Mo said, her gaze distant, focused on something Sonny couldn't see. "Told him about the day, about you, about the roses. People probably thought I was a crazy old woman talking to ashes in a jar. That's not crazy. Maybe not. Maybe it kept me sane." She reached out with trembling fingers and touched the urn. "I need you to promise me something, Sonny. When I go, you mix my ashes with his. Bury us together under the roses. We were married 47 years, counting the ones after he died, and I'm not quitting now." "Ma, after everything he put you through." "The disease put me through it. Not Buck," Mo's voice carried the fierce edge that used to send grown men scurrying. "The sickness made him cruel, but underneath he was still the man I married. The man who wept when you were born. The man who built that rose trellis with his own 2 hands because I mentioned wanting one." She paused, gathering strength. "I'm choosing to remember the man, not the monster the damage made. You understand me?" Sonny understood more than she knew. He was becoming that monster, or would have been if he hadn't chosen to step back. "I'll do it, I promise." Mo relaxed against the pillows, satisfied. "Good. Now there's something else in that box, an envelope, from your father." Sonny's hand froze halfway to the box. "What?" "He wrote it 3 days before he died. Gave it to me during visiting hours at the jail. Made me swear not to give it to you until you were old enough to understand." Mo's eyes glistened. I kept waiting for old enough. Waited 47 years. I was scared, Sonny. Scared you'd see him broken and lose whatever good memories you had left. But you need to read it now. The envelope had yellowed with age, sealed with tape that had lost its adhesive decades ago. Sonny's name on the front, in Buck's handwriting, blocked letters, the penmanship of a man who'd left school at 14 to work in his father's garage. Sonny sat heavily, opened the envelope with hands that remembered being small enough for Buck to lift with one arm back when his father was the strongest man in the world. The letter was written on notebook paper, edges ragged where it had been torn from the spiral binding. Sonny, your ma says I should write this down. Says someday you'll want to know why your old man is the way he is. So here goes. I know what I am. I see it in your eyes when you look at me. Fear, sometimes hate. I put that there. Made you afraid of your own father, and that's a weight I'll carry to my grave. The doctors say my brain's broken. Say all those boxing matches before you were born scrambled me up so bad I can't think straight anymore. Say the rage isn't really me choosing it, it's the damage talking. But here's the thing, son. Don't matter if it's me or the damage. Either way, it's my hands doing the hitting, my voice doing the yelling, my choices that landed me in this cell. I tried to stop. God is my witness, I tried. But my head isn't mine anymore. I'll be fine 1 minute, then something flips and I'm gone. When I come back, there's blood on my knuckles and terror in people's eyes, and I can't remember how it got that way. I'm writing this on a clear day, a good day, so I can tell you straight, don't be like me. I know every father says that to his son, but I mean it different. Don't let anger consume you from the inside. Don't confuse being tough with being cruel. Don't mistake fear for respect. You got my temper, I see it in you already, even at 11. But you also got your ma's heart, and that's worth more than any amount of muscle. When the anger comes, and it will come, it's in your blood. You'll have choices I never had. You got a brain that works. You got time to walk away. You got the chance to be better than your old man ever was. Take it. I love you, boy. I'm sorry I couldn't show it right. I'm sorry I'm leaving you with memories that'll haunt you. I'm sorry for everything I did and everything I couldn't stop myself from doing. But mostly, I'm sorry I won't be there to see the man you become. I hope to God he's nothing like me. Your father, Buck Sonny, read the letter 3 times. Each reading revealed different layers. The first time brought shock. His father had understood what was happening to him. The second brought grief. Buck had lived in his own personal hell, watching himself become a monster. The third brought recognition. This was Sonny's future if he didn't change course. He knew, Sonny said, his voice barely functional. He knew he was sick and he couldn't stop it. Yes. Mo's hand found his and squeezed with what little strength remained. Now you know, but you have something Buck never had. You have time. You have a choice. You can stop before the damage steals that choice away. Sonny folded the letter with reverent care and returned it to the envelope. I already made the choice, Ma. Stepped down as president, started the shop. I'm done with the violence. Good. That's good, baby. Mo smiled, genuine warmth breaking through the pain and fatigue. Your father would be proud. I know I am. Don't be proud yet. I'm terrified I made the wrong decision. That without the club, without the patch, I'm nobody. You're my son, Mo said firmly. That makes you somebody. They sat together as afternoon light painted the room gold, and Sonny told her about Second Wind custom motorcycles, about Declan's showing up early and staying late learning the trade with the intensity of someone who'd found purpose, about the 3 other men he'd hired, Griff, Marcus, and James, all fresh from prison, all needing what Sonny was offering, a legitimate way forward. What made you call it Second Wind? Mo asked. Haven't decided on a name yet. Call it Second Wind, Mo said with the certainty of someone who'd lived long enough to know truth when she spoke it. Because that's what you're giving those boys. That's what you're giving yourself. Second Wind custom motorcycles. Sonny turned the phrase over in his mind, testing its weight. It fit. Okay, Ma, Second Wind it is. Mo's eyes sparkled with something that might have been mischief. Now tell me about the nurse. Sonny blinked. What nurse? Don't insult my intelligence, boy. Patricia, the hospice nurse. She's single, lost her husband to cancer 5 years back. She understands grief in ways most people don't. Ma, this isn't the time. This is exactly the time. I'm dying, which means I get to meddle in your personal life. It's practically required. Mo's grin was wicked despite her weakness. She likes you. A mother can tell. And you need someone, Sonny. You've been alone too long. I have the brothers. That's not what I mean, and you damn well know it. Sonny did know it. had been alone in the ways that mattered since his third divorce 15 years ago, had convinced himself he was fine, that he didn't need anyone, that brotherhood was enough. But in the dark hours of early morning, the loneliness sat on his chest like a physical weight. "I'll think about it," he said, which was more consideration than he'd given any woman in a decade. Mo smiled like she'd already won. She probably had. The days marched forward. Mo slept more, spoke less, but when consciousness came, she was fully present, making each moment count because she knew exactly how few remained. On day 12, she made Sonny promise Irish music at her funeral. None of that weepy Protestant garbage. "I want fiddles and drums and people celebrating that I lived, not mourning that I died." On day 14, she insisted the brothers come to the house. 14 leather-clad men crowded into her bedroom, standing awkward and reverent around the bed of a dying woman who'd been more of a mother to some of them than their biological mothers ever were. "Listen here," Mo said, her voice barely above a whisper, but commanding absolute attention. "You boys take care of my son. He's going to need you more than he knows. And you," she pointed a trembling finger at Axel, "you make sure he doesn't come crawling back to the club. He's done his time. Let him have peace." "Yes, ma'am," Axel said. Every brother echoed the promise. On day 16, Mo asked for Declan. The kid arrived that evening, nervous energy radiating off him, carrying a single red rose he'd found growing wild in a vacant lot. Mo's face lit up when she saw it. "Come here, boy." Declan approached like he was walking on sacred ground. Mo took his hand in both of hers. "You remind me of Sonny at your age, angry, lost, searching for something to fill the emptiness." Her grip was weak, but her gaze was iron. "He found it in the club. You're finding it in the work. That's better. But don't make work your whole existence. Find someone to love. Find something to believe in besides your own pain. Promise me." "I promise, Mrs. Callahan." "Good boy. Now get out." These stories aren't for young ears. After Declan left, Mo told Sonny stories he'd never heard. About Buck before the damage, when he was young and wild and surprisingly gentle. About their wedding in a Tucson courthouse, both 19 and absolutely certain they'd live forever. About the first time Buck held newborn Sonny and cried because he'd never imagined he could create something so perfect. "He loved you beyond measure," Mo whispered as darkness gathered outside. "More than he loved himself. More than he loved me, maybe. You were his shot at redemption. His proof he could make something beautiful, even if he couldn't be beautiful himself." That night, Mo slipped into unconsciousness. Patricia said it was the beginning of the end. Hours now, not days. The brothers maintained vigil. Axel read the newspaper to silence. Hammer told stories about legendary rides, roads conquered, storms survived. Chains prayed quietly in Spanish, the words flowing like water over stone. Sonny sat beside the bed holding her hand, feeling it grow colder inch by inch. At 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, with desert winds singing through the roses outside, Maureen Callahan took her last breath. No drama, no final proclamation. Just an inhale with no exhale following. Then silence. Sonny sat frozen, holding her hand, waiting for the next breath that would never come. "Ma!" His voice cracked. "Come on now. Don't leave. Please." But she was gone. Whatever force had animated her, the fierce spirit, the stubborn love, the woman who'd raised a biker and loved a broken man, had departed. What remained was just cooling flesh and stilling blood. Axel's hand settled on Sonny's shoulder. "She's free now. No more suffering." Sonny nodded because words wouldn't come. Couldn't do anything except sit there, still holding her hand, feeling the world shift beneath him. The funeral happened 4 days later. They buried her ashes mixed with Buck's under the largest rose bush in her garden, the one she'd planted the year Sonny was born. Over 200 people came. Brothers from chapters spanning 3 states. Veterans she'd helped at the VA hospital decades prior. Neighbors who remembered her kindness. Patricia, who'd guided her through those final days with professional grace and personal compassion. Officer Bridget McCready stood in full dress uniform near the back, off-duty but present. She caught Sonny's eye and nodded once, the respect of one professional to another. Declan arrived in an ill-fitting suit, standing respectfully at the periphery. Sonny delivered the eulogy, stood before 200 people, and attempted to compress 83 years of life into inadequate words. "My mother was tougher than any man I've known," he began, his voice carrying across the garden. "She buried a husband she loved despite what disease made him become. She raised a son in a world she didn't understand and chose not to judge. She never retreated from doing right, even when right required courage." He spoke about her roses, about her strength, about the way she'd loved Buck, not despite his flaws, but through them, choosing to see the man beneath the damage. She taught me that strength isn't measured by how rarely you fall. It's measured by how consistently you rise. That love isn't about perfection, it's about choosing someone anyway. That legacy isn't what you leave when you die. It's what you pass on while you live. He paused, looking at the assembled faces. Brothers who'd bled beside him. Young men he was teaching to build instead of destroy. People whose lives Mo had touched in ways both large and small. Ma made me promise to truly live, not just survive. So that's what I'm going to do. He touched the urn before it entered the earth. Rest easy, Ma. You earned it. And Buck, you take care of her now. You owe her that much. They lowered the urn into soil. A bagpiper played Amazing Grace because Mo had specifically requested it. The brothers formed up and revved their engines in unison, the last salute, the final goodbye thunder for a woman who'd raised a storm. Afterward, people gathered at Sonny's house. Food materialized, casseroles and sandwiches, and all the things people bring when they don't know what else to offer. Stories flowed, laughter mixed with tears in the peculiar alchemy of Irish wakes. Declan found Sonny in the kitchen. "Mr. Callahan, I need to tell you something. Your mother changed my life. That day with the ambulance, I was heading nowhere at terminal velocity. She gave me a reason to break. She had a gift for that," Sonny said, "seeing people's potential instead of their present. I'm 6 weeks sober tomorrow, longest stretch since Tommy died. Keep going, one day at a time. That's what they say at the meetings." Declan hesitated. "I've been attending. AA. Figured if I'm going to rebuild my life, might as well do it properly." Sonny gripped the kid's shoulder. "Your brother would be proud." "I hope so. I'm trying to become the man he believed I could be. That's all any of us can do." The weeks following were strange. The house echoed with absence. Sonny kept expecting Mo to call from the bedroom requesting water or company or just the sound of his voice. The silence where she'd been felt like an open wound. But work provided purpose. Second Wind Custom Motorcycles opened officially 6 weeks after Mo's death. The shop occupied a converted garage on Phoenix's eastern edge, large enough for 6 bikes and half a dozen men who needed purpose more than paychecks. Declan managed the front customer service estimates, job coordination. 3 other men worked the bays, Griff intense and focused learning precision. Marcus methodical and patient, perfect for detail work. James quiet and haunted, finding peace in the rhythm of honest labor. Sonny taught them the craft. Not just the mechanics of rebuilding engines or truing wheels, but the philosophy underneath. "Every motorcycle tells you what it needs," he'd say, hands buried in a carburetor's guts. "You just have to listen. Same with people. They'll show you what's broken if you pay attention." The shop became more than a business. It became a redemption factory. Men arrived angry and left with purpose. Arrived broken and left with skills. Arrived isolated and left belonging to something. Patricia started appearing regularly. Casual at first, dropping off meals, because I cooked too much, sitting in the office while Sonny handled paperwork, talking about everything and nothing. Her husband had been a Marine killed by cancer 5 years back. She understood grief, understood that some voids never fill you, just learn to navigate around them. 3 months after Mo's death, Patricia and Sonny had dinner. Just dinner. Nothing romantic. 2 people who'd both lost everything learning to be human again. But it was a beginning. 6 months after Mo's death, Sonny returned for follow-up brain scans. Dr. Webb compared new images to the originals, pointing out subtle changes that meant everything. "The progression has slowed dramatically. Whatever lifestyle modifications you've implemented, maintain them. You're buying yourself years. How many years? Continue this trajectory, 20, possibly more. You won't die from this, Mr. Callahan. You'll die with it, but not from it. 20 years. Sonny was 58. 20 years meant 78, older than Buck ever dreamed of becoming. "Thank you, doctor." "Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You made the difficult choice. Most men lack that courage. Most men didn't have a mother who loved them enough to tell hard truths before dying." 1 year after Mo's death, Sonny stood in her garden at sunrise. The roses had bloomed extravagantly, as if they knew she was watching. Red and yellow and white climbing the trellis Buck had built half a century ago. He watered them the way Mo had taught him, slowly, steadily, attending to each plant, noticing what they needed. Declan found him there. The kid had transformed, 10 months sober, enrolled in community college, dating a woman who made him smile genuinely. Still worked at the shop, still learning, but becoming his own man instead of the angry boy who'd blocked an ambulance to prove nothing worth proving. Boss, that veteran's coming at 9. The one with PTSD wants to learn the trade. I'll be ready. They walked back together past the sign reading Second Wind Custom Motorcycles in letters Patricia had helped design. Inside, Griff and Marcus were already working classic rock, playing low the smell of motor oil and coffee mixing in morning air. The veteran arrived precisely at 9. 28 years old, Iraq War, hands that trembled, but eyes that wanted to learn. Sonny shook his hand, felt the tremor, saw the fear living underneath the pride. "Welcome to Second Wind," Sonny said. "Let's get started." And they did. That evening, after the shop closed, Sonny rode his Harley to the cemetery. He still rode just carefully, never fast, always wearing proper protective gear. The disease might inhabit his brain, but it didn't own him. Not yet. Maybe never if he kept choosing wisely. He sat by Mo and Buck's grave, watching sunset paint the desert in shades of copper and gold. "Hey, Ma. Been too long since I visited." The roses nodded in the breeze, red petals catching fading light, the same deep crimson Mo had cultivated for 46 years. "Shop's doing well. Declan's clean, working hard, teaching the new guys now. We have a vet starting Monday. Iraq War. Hands shake, but we'll fix that. We always do." A hawk circled overhead, riding thermals homeward. "Patricia's coming for dinner tonight, making pot roast, using your recipe, the one you claimed I'd never master." He smiled. "I think you'd approve of her, Ma. She doesn't tolerate nonsense. Reminds me of you that way." The sun touched the horizon, bleeding red into purple into deepening blue. "I'm not running anymore. Not from the diagnosis. Not from what Buck was. Not from what I nearly became." He stood, touched the headstone, still radiating the day's accumulated warmth. "I'm just here, present, making one choice at a time." He walked back to his motorcycle. Declan had texted the new apprentice wanted to arrive early tomorrow, eager to begin. Griff had completed the rebuild on the 58 Panhead. Marcus had questions about carburetor tuning that could wait until morning. Life. Continuing. Exactly as Mo had promised it would. Sonny started the engine. That familiar rumble, 3 decades of partnership between man and machine, but different now, gentler, respectful of limitations. He pulled onto the road heading home, not fleeing anything, not chasing anything, just riding the path he'd chosen mile by careful mile toward whatever time remained. Behind him, the cemetery faded into dusk. The roses remained blooming in darkness, and somewhere in the space between memory and hope, between the man he'd been and the man he was becoming, Sonny Callahan discovered something his father never found. Peace. Not the peace of endings, the peace of acceptance, the peace of knowing that every choice from here forward was his own, made with clear eyes and steady hands, in a brain that still for now belonged to him. He rode into gathering night, and though no voice spoke aloud, he felt his mother's presence in the cooling air, in the scent of roses carried on desert wind, in the quiet certainty that he was finally truly heading home.